Hi everyone, welcome to the Sunrise. So glad to have you guys back here with us once again with our 5-minute Bible study. We enjoy so much doing these 5-minute Bible studies. We enjoy connecting with you. We enjoy being able to give you guys some good things that you can take and that you can utilize in your actual life and can putting it down into a real enjoyable time span, which is only 5 minutes. And so that's what we are doing here at the Sunrises with our 5-minute Bible study. We're in the middle of this new series that we have going on with Joseph, and it's called When Winning Feels Like Losing. And so we're going to talk about Joseph, and we're going to walk through different aspects of his life about how Joseph was working his way all the way towards his ultimate victory. But along the way, it just felt like he was losing again and again. Has anybody ever felt like that? I know I have. And so we're going to go ahead and put 5 minutes on the clock right here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. God is ready for us, and so are we. And so last week we talked about Joseph, and he was saying what God had given to him, just talking about his dream. God had given him a dream, and he's telling it to his family, and he's mentioning it to his brothers, and they don't like him for it. He mentions it to his father, who actually he has good favor with, and he rebukes him for it. And all Joseph really did was he just said what God told him to say. God had given him a dream, and he wanted to share it with those that he loved, and yet they rebuked him for it. He lost favor with them because of it. And so we're going to keep going into this. What does it feel? What do we do with the fact that we are trying to do what's right, and yet it feels like it's costing us again and again? And so we're going to jump down to Genesis chapter 37. We're going to read verse 23 this week and verse number 28. And those, we're going to pull out some good stuff out of that stuff there. And so in verse number 23, it says, so when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe. This was the robe that his father had made for him, the coat of many colors that some of you guys have heard of. It says the ordinate robe he was wearing. They stripped him of the robe. It says, and then they took him and threw him into a cistern. And the cistern was empty, and there was no water in it. A cistern is kind of like a pit that they used to house water in. But this one happened to be empty, and they threw him down in there. Jump down to verse number 28. And it says here, so when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph out of the cistern, and they sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites who took him to Egypt. Understand, 20 shekels is the equivalent of $200. They sold their own brother for $200. Now imagine here's Joseph. All I did was came to you guys and told y'all what my dream was. It's not my fault that my father gave me favor, and yet you guys hated me and despised me. They called him a dreamer because he told them of this dream, and they were so angry about it that they actually sold him off into slavery. And all he did was he just said what was right. Can you imagine the headspace that Joseph is in at this point? All I did was repeat what God has given me. And it feels like, as I tell people the good news, tell them what is correct, tell them what is right, I am losing. I have taken a loss. I'm reminded of Thanos in the Marvel movies, for those of you that have watched that. He has a line in there that fits so perfectly with what happens in Joseph's life. He says in the movie, he says, I know what it's like to lose. To feel so desperately that you are right, and to lose all the same. Joseph is sitting in that thing right there, is that he knows what he's saying is correct. He's heard clearly from God, and yet here he is in a situation where he's losing for it. So you are maybe in the same similar situation, or have been in that kind of place before, where you said what was right and it cost you. It cost you the job. It cost you the relationship. All you were was honest, and all you did was say what was correct. You just repeated what God gave you, and it cost you something very valuable to you. Joseph lost his family behind this. He lost his home behind this. He lost his relationship with his brothers and his father temporarily all behind saying what was right. So you may have lost your opportunity, but what I want you to take from it this week is I want you to remember what God said. As you're sitting in this place where you feel like I did what I was supposed to do and I said what I was supposed to say and I thought I would be well received, and yet here I am feeling like I'm losing for it, remember what God said to you. Remember what God has spoke to you. Remember what God has said to you about it, because he's the one that has everything that's all in control. He's the one that's going to make sure that this thing goes all the way that it's supposed to. Man can't stop anything that God has already told you is a guarantee. And it needs to go so that you can get this win. And so on this week, what I want you to do is, some of you, I need you to go back to what God has given you. Go back to that dream that he's given you, dig it back up, put some faith, put some belief back into it. And so you may be asking, what am I supposed to do with this situation? How am I supposed to look at this? This is the questions that I want you to bring to God in prayer. How am I supposed to look at this situation? Help me to not harbor ill feelings about those that were involved in the situation or the situation itself. And so that I can see it clearly and I can hear from you clearly. Oftentimes we are really upset at losing the apartment on our way to our mansion. And so we're going to continue going on with Joseph. We got some good stuff going. We've got some more stuff that we're going to talk about. And what do we do when winning feels like losing? We'll see you guys next week. It's going to be great.